Hey, how's it going, captains? Admiral Hattori here, and welcome aboard for another World of Warships video on my channel. In today's video, I am sailing the Tier 9 American battleship, the USS Minnesota. Now, this game is my first game with this ship, and it's actually the stock configuration. I forgot to put the upgrade hull on this ship. So being stock is going to be a difficult time when it comes to playing this ship, but to my surprise, out of the 10 games I played so far, this has been my best game. So right away, my first impressions are pretty strong about this ship. At the moment, these ships are in early access. You're given the chance to unlock the Tier 8 Kansas if you keep up with the USN directives throughout this patch. And for the Minnesota, you can only unlock it by spinning the wheel on the American Random Bundle. Now, I did not intend to get the ship. I was trying to get the American tokens from the bundles to unlock the Tier 7 US battleship Florida. But on my final spin, I just happened to get lucky with the Minnesota. Now, I spent $35 worth of doubloons. Actually, it's $50 worth of doubloons, but I got a 30% off coupon that was set to expire in 24 hours. So at the end, I only spent $35 for 12,500 doubloons. 12 spins. On the 12th spin, I got Minnesota. So, the alternative American battleship line. Generally, a lot of people are disappointed, and mainly because these ships are all about being slow. Slow speed, slow reload as you witness 40 seconds. And even community contributors and YouTubers were slow about getting their videos out on YouTube about the Minnesota. I was actually looking forward to this ship, or generally the new alternative line. And I was very happy about that they're offering this alternative line because I was not expecting an alternative line for the USN battleship. So yes, these are paper ships, but they do have some historical context. And right here, you're about to witness my first Big Daddy salvo across the map at that Riga. Nasty. 3 Citadel hits. 42,240 damage so far in this game. Right away, I was absolutely blown away. My eyes were just open, like wow, I scored 40-some thousand damage across the map. So yes, they're slow, and if you had the highest expectation that these ships are going to be fast, then you're looking at the wrong place. Now, where do these ships come from, historically speaking? Well, if you know about the London and Washington Treaty, which limit the tonnage of the major nations at the time who had a navy, so generally the Japanese, the Americans, the Royal Navy, so the British, and there's the French. Every navy in the world that has somewhat a battleship or aircraft carrier, they were limited in design. And as a result, the current battleships that we got in the game, the real battleships, were designed around that limitation. Well, mainly the North Carolina and the South Dakota class battleship, whereas the Iowa class was no longer limited, but it followed that idea because there was a lot of things that has improved compared to the Dreadnought design, primarily speed. So if that treaty did not exist, these are the ships in the alternative history that should have existed at the time. They were the Dreadnought design that was, we were going down the Dreadnought road all the way to World War II, but things has went around with, the other direction with that treaty. And then we got that amazing South Dakota class that was able to stay within the tonnage, and all that design restriction has really improved engineering of these ships. So yeah, they're slow everything, slow speed, slow reload, 40-second reload, but the thing about these ships are that it's the firepower, the broadside. Like I said, when you saw that salvo on the Riga, this is what the ship's all about. It's scoring the heavy broadside. The guns are inferior to the Iowa class battleship, the alternative American battleship that you can choose. The Iowas, they have 50 caliber barrels versus 45 caliber on the Minnesota. The Iowas have a higher damage per shell, I think by 1,000. So I think they most likely got that extra damage from the shell velocity because these shells tend to arc more versus the Iowa class. So better penetration on the Iowa, better damage on the Iowa, just better everything, better reload. But a lot of people overlook the fact that this is really a tier 9 Montana. Yes, you don't have the penetration value of the Iowa, but it's not like these 16-inch guns or 406mm guns for people who are in the metric system can't penetrate. And right here you see a Broadside, Missouri out in the distance, I think around 18 kilometers, and I managed to score a Citadel on the Missouri. So you are able to Citadel battleships at a distance at this tier. The penetration value is more towards the Colorado penetration value, but it wasn't like the Colorado had a bad penetration value. It actually has an impressive penetration value. It's not like you're comparing the Mutsu to the Nagato. If you play the Mutsu, you know that even though you have 406mm guns, those shells suck at penetrating. They're going to shatter. Or the Nelson, they have 16-inch guns. They're going to suck at a distance or a certain type of ships, because I actually shatter all my shells with the Nelson at close range against a Colorado. So the shell penetration is actually acceptable. It's more towards the range of the 380mm guns that you find, but yeah, they're still 16-inch guns or 406mm guns, and you got 12 of them. So every salvo that you fire on this ship or the new alternative line, you must make it count. And unfortunately, a lot of people weren't too fond of that because they prefer a 30-second reload. And to me, I think this ship would have been broken if it had a 30-second reload. But at the same time, I don't like the 40-second reload. I think a better compromise would have been 35 seconds. But I'm still able to work with the 40-second reload because this is American battleship. American battleships inherently has very consistent dispersion. And although the Kansas is a weaker version of the Montana, the I'm saying Kansas, the Minnesota. So the Minnesota is a weaker version of the Montana. The Minnesota actually has a higher sigma value than the Montana, just slightly higher. It's not to the point where it's day and night, but it's slightly higher, which kind of reassures you that you're gonna get very good dispersion or consistent salvos, and you're gonna see that a lot. Like this angle synop right here, I managed to score massive hits on that synop. Now, if you pair the ship with Halsey and you get Confederate, as you witness right now, you can bring down the reload down to 30 seconds, so it becomes normalized. Now, of course, you're probably asking, should you get the reload upgrade or the dispersion upgrade? I opt for the dispersion upgrade because it's a unique upgrade that is only available on the USN tech tree for that slot. And of course, there's the Yamato legendary upgrade, but that's a legendary upgrade. That's a different story. So yeah, go for the dispersion upgrade. I think there's gonna be some people out there who's gonna go for the reload upgrade. To me, I would consider it if it didn't have that turret traverse penalty. So I just went all out on dispersion. You gotta treat the ship like a sniper rifle, bolt action sniper rifle, where every shot has to count in FPS game sense versus like a AR or a regular rifle that is semi-automatic, where you can just keep pulling on the trigger one shot each time, versus a bolt action where you have to bolt every time. So yeah, this is really the bolt action rifle version of the American battleship line. And I do enjoy these salvos. And you probably say, well, why don't you just play the Montana? The problem here is that you're comparing the Montana to a tier 9 battleship. I'm looking forward to the Vermont, which has bigger guns. I think it's 457mm guns. I don't know how nasty a salvo that would be on the broadside, but this ship has nasty broadside. I can see why they went with the long reload. Although I don't agree with 40 seconds, I think 35 would have been more comfortable. Now, the speed of the ship. Yes, I don't know why, but people are complaining about the speed. You can't change the design of this ship. This ship was designed this way. It was designed to be slow. So you can't change history. But you can change your strategy on how to play the ship, because not every strategy will be applied to every single ship. Certain ships gotta be played differently. You can't apply German battleship strategy to a Royal Navy battleship, because if you do, you're just gonna get melted at the front lines with the Royal Navy battleships. So right there, I took out the Missouri. A number of times the Missouri was actually fairly angled, but I managed to score like 10k salvos per salvo on that Missouri every time that Missouri appears on my reticle. But yeah, it's all about aiming well and firing and making every salvo count. And yes, you are at the mercy of RNG, but again, you're playing an American battleship which has consistent dispersion. Right here, this is Agir. This entire time I'm just sucking. I suck at aiming or leading against this Agir because the Agir was going at a very funny speed. But if I were to just every time if I aim well, and once you play enough World of Warships, you will eventually aim well. Hopefully, you're gonna get some very good salvos with the Minnesota or generally any American battleship. I'm not sure about the Kansas. I heard the Kansas was horrendous to play, so maybe Kansas might be a whole different story. But rest assured, Minnesota is a fun ship. You basically pay 10 extra seconds on the reload for a Montana at this tier because it's tier 9. It's like comparing the Musashi to the Yamato. So slow speed, you gotta have to readjust your choices on how to place a ship. You want to go to the side of the map where you know for a fact that there are ships to fight. A lot of players who play the Colorado, New Mexico, just go haphazardly anywhere they want without waiting for destroyers or aircraft carriers to spot where the enemy fleet is at. And if you don't have destroyers or aircraft carriers, or they're taking forever to find somebody, just stick to the middle of the map. As I started out, I started at B, and I just stuck to the B side of the map. If you spawn on A, then sail a little bit towards B, but don't go all the way to B yet until you find out how many people are at A. If there's no way at A, then you just full steam ahead to B and then C, and then you fight the rest of the enemy fleet. Slow speed also means that destroyers are going to bully you, and that's just something you have to accept. You know, there are certain ships out there you just have to accept their cons. So, you know, Royal Navy battleship, they have that raised Citadel. You show Broadside, you accept the fact that you're going to get Citadel. German battleships, if you go secondary build, you're just going to have bad concealment generally, unless you choose to go with concealment build. I prefer fire prevention on my secondary build. So yeah, right here I'm concealed. I'm barely alive with my Minnesota. But Minnesota overall, I enjoy it. It's not for everyone. A lot of people are disappointed. If you're complaining about the speed, don't just pretend the ships didn't exist. That is it. I am looking forward to the Vermont for sure, because I already had plans to grind out the Kansas and then get the Minnesota, but I just happened to get lucky again, like I said in the beginning, that I rolled the dice and got the Minnesota. So guns, AA, it's all good. I think it's all good. Yeah, not as great as the Iowa's guns, but they're still 16-inch guns. AA, in terms of the rating, it says that it's weaker than the Iowa class, but you do have defensive fire, which will somewhat help you, even though most people will say that it's useless. I don't know how exactly defensive fire works to this day, because I never bothered to read up on it, but if I remember correctly from what people have said, it just increases the flak, which is better than nothing. You know, it's something, you got on this ship. In terms of the armor scheme, this is a big one because that's the biggest thing that differentiates the new alternative line versus the current line, is that this is a dreadnought design, so it's a lot more difficult to citadel the Minnesota versus the North Carolina and Iowa. If you ask anyone, a lot of people who play the Colorado are spoiled because they like to go broadside and they get away with a lot of, get away with a lot from the American battleship shells from citadeling their ship. Whereas the North Carolina, being the easiest American battleship to citadel in the high tiers, a lot of people got spanked when they first got the North Carolina, thinking that they can just get away with that. But of course, once you play enough, you figure out that you're supposed to angle with the North Carolina's new 32mm bow. So with the Minnesota versus the Iowa, you can show more broadside in the ship, and not only that, just by the sheer thickness of the ship, it's quite in there that the Citadel is very well protected because of that 38mm belt or bulge on this ship. The torpedo protection is better than the Iowa's, I believe. I'm pretty sure it is better because generally the standard types like the Arizona, New Mexico, or Colorado has good torpedo protection versus something like North Carolina, which has horrendous torpedo protection. Montana, you know, it's a tier 10 battleship, so I expect it to have somewhat a good torpedo protection. I don't recall the numbers off my head, but yeah, these ships have great torpedo protection for being slow. So you trade the speed for having better armor to survive broadside, since your citadel is slightly lower than the current American battleships. The standard types have a lower citadel, a thicker torpedo bulge, so better torpedo protection, and you have a heavier broadside at the cost of having a 40-second reload. The gun penetration isn't as great as the American on the Iowa guns, but they have better penetration than a lot of the other ships at this tier, so your penetration isn't that big of a deal to me. And that's the Minnesota in a nutshell. I really got nothing else to say because at this point we're going to lose the game, and I think I only got like one more salvo out there. So aside from that, I'm just gonna leave off on this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time on World of Warships.